Bow chicka wow wow. Bow chicka wow wow. Welcome to Backseat Basketball. I'm your host, Jeff Buettner. You can find me at Jeffrey Buettner. Today's going to be a weird day, folks. Be a little interesting. I'm writing solo dolo today. Dr. Hot Robbie, as you guys know, at Der Hot Robbie. He's on a super secret ninja mission. Ninja missions take precedent here at Backseat Basketball, so he could not be with us. Luckily for me and for you and for anyone else, I get to cross a bucket list. I guess cross an item off of my bucket list. Again, solo podcast today. So cut me a little slack. Hopefully there's some tears, at least one laugh. I'm hoping at least one laugh. We'll see how this goes. It's going to be interesting. Interesting to say the least. It's more of a, now I'm in the thick of it, I'm a whole minute in. It's kind of like playing a zone defense, you know? There's no longer man on man. You know, it's like 4-on-5 defense. I guess this is what like the Sacramento Kings would feel like, right? You're a man down, still got to play D, you know? I'm going to step it up a little bit. So we'll see how this goes. Let's do a little housekeeping to start off. We appreciate all of the listeners. We appreciate all the feedback. This is episode 5. Today is July 23rd. And we've been getting a lot of good feedback, a lot of viewers across the country, and a lot of retweets. We like to show a little love to our retweets. So Cheeseman, as always, has been with us from the beginning. We'll always remember you, Cheeseman. Always remember you. Tish Lacombe also retweeted us. So we appreciate that. Getting a ton of views across the world. Slovakia, still stepping your game up. You surprise us every week, so we appreciate it. As always, you can subscribe to us on iTunes. Leave us a little rating. Give us a review, good or bad. We appreciate all feedback. Again, we're getting weird today. You can also find us at YouTube, Backseat Basketball on YouTube. So you can sneak it in at work if you need to sneak it in at work. And as always, we're on all the major podcasting apps. Your iPhone, your Android, your iPad. Maybe not those old school brick phones, but sorry. 2015, people. This episode, I'm going to go ahead and dedicate to Colin Cowherd. I'm a big fan of Colin Cowherd. Maybe not a big fan. I enjoy the audacity it takes to do a one-man show for several hours a day. He announced this past week he's going to be leaving ESPN on to bigger and better things. He's going to Fox Sports. And again, whether you like him, you love him, you hate him, a lot of people seem to be somewhere in between. It's an interesting gig. Sitting in front of a microphone, talking to yourself like a crazy person. I read this tweet the other day, and I think this sums it up for me on his polarity in the public. So to quote this tweet, just heard the news. I can't stand you, but I respect you. And also can't stop listening to you. Good luck, Colin. Just heard the news. I can't stand you. Good for him. Good luck at Fox. Also, Bill Simmons, a idol of mine. Maybe the first real basketball-related podcast I started listening to were the episodes Bill Simmons did on the BS Report, Grantland Sports, Bill Don't Lie, was abruptly cut at the knees mid-season with his departure from ESPN. He's now moving to HBO, supposedly doing sports-related stuff, a lot of video. Theoretically, with EHPO, he's going to be EHPO. Theoretically, with HBO, he's going to be uncensored, kind of free to fly his wings. So it's going to be interesting to see where he ends up going with his career. We know where he's going to go. He's going to HBO. Who he ends up sitting down with and what that show ends up looking like. It's going to be interesting. I think it's going to be huge for him. I think he's going to love it there. I think we're going to see a new side to BS himself, Mr. Bill Simmons. All right, enough tomfoolery, folks. Let's jump into some basketball. Again, Backseat Basketball. That's what we're here for. The major deal this week. Ty Lawson, baby. We talked about him last episode. DUI. Wanted to be moved by the Nuggets. They were looking for a home for him. The Lakers were in the running. Tried to offer a few things here and there. It's the word on the interwebs. Ultimately, Ty Lawson will be playing for the Houston Rockets. So, to the Houston Rockets goes Ty Lawson. And to the Denver Nuggets, they sent him Kostas Koufos, Pablo Prigioni, Joey Dorsey, Nick Johnson, and a protected first to Denver. Pablo Prigioni, we'll talk about, ended up getting waived. In my opinion, and I guess his value did really crater. Again, we talked about it last episode with the DUI. But to me, this is a bad, not a bad move, but it's just unfortunate with what they were able to get for Ty Lawson. A score-force point guard. There was obviously some trouble there in Paradise. Maybe the high altitude got to Ty Lawson, who knows? Again, obviously the DUI didn't help his case. It just feels like when the rumors started about wanting to move Ty Lawson, Kenneth Faried, and rebuild a year and a half ago, they could have gotten a better lot than this, right? Yes, first-round draft pick. Yes, Kostas Koufos, Nick Johnson, I guess, Joey Dorsey. But this man led the team to a 57-win season, right? So, interesting pickup for sure. I think the most interesting aspect of this trade, is how Lawson and Harden are going to play together, right? Harden, dribble first shooting guard. He likes the ball in his hands. He likes to dish and go, and he likes to control the tempo, right? He's the chess master. He sees the field and decides how he wants to play it. And now they've got Ty Lawson next to him, right? It's nice. Ty Lawson is shoot first, score first. He's going to be able to put the ball in the hole. He's one of my favorite 2K players years ago, right? He had that mid-range, those corner threes down. It's going to be interesting, though. I still think for a game that requires so much team chemistry, a game that requires smarts, right? A game that requires cool heads will prevail. This team feels like a ticking time bomb, right? When were the reports that we saw maybe a year ago, right after Chandler Parsons left, about James Harden and Dwight Howard were the weirdos, right? They ate by themselves. They didn't interact with the team. And then now we're hearing reports of Ty Lawson not being a leader. Obviously, the Rockets did well, right? It's worth the gamble. They didn't have to give up much. But at a certain point, when you double down on instability, and you double down on crazy, when do things go haywire, right? It's going to be an interesting fit. I love it to some degree. What can you do, really, right? The Houston Rockets, let's just say I love Daryl Morey, right? It's one of these GMs where they're willing to gamble. More talent. And it's worked out for them, right? They've gotten better each year. They've added more talent. They've worked on where they needed to improve. The point guard was one of their weak spots. Can Ty Lawson really detract from them there? We'll have to wait and see, right? Another big topic over the past week, we had the player awards. So this is a situation where the players actually vote for each other. So what a lot of people don't realize is MVP, Defensive Player of the Year, All NBA, Team 1, Team 2, etc. Those get voted on by the media, right? The players don't get a say. It's the guys who don't play the game. And Kevin Durant had something to say about that. So about 5 months ago, All-Star Weekend, he had this to say. He goes, quote, I'm quoting here. Yeah, I think media and guys get too much power to vote on stuff like that, quite frankly. I don't think you really know a lot about or as much as we know about it. So yeah, We play against these guys every single night. We battle against these guys. We know what they say on the court. We know how they handle their teammates. We know how they approach the game. And our vote should count. Our opinions should count. Like I said, I don't think you guys know as much as we do. And I don't see why you have more power than we do. I'm going to repeat that last part because that's the end of the quote. I don't think you guys know as much as we do. And I don't see why you have more power than we do. Interesting line, right? It makes you think. It makes you think. I mean, we're all spectators in this sport. There's only, however many 1,500 people who have played the game of basketball, who played in the NBA ever. It's a very small group, right? And it's interesting that it's seeming now the best coaches and the best commentators are former basketball players. Why is that, right? Jeff Hornacek, et cetera, Mark Jackson. The names go on and on. So former players are excelling at these other positions. Coaching, commentating, front office positions. Steve Kerr, that's the name I was blanking on. Sorry, Steve. Love you, bro. Steve Kerr. There's a number of them, right? So they excel at these other positions, yet we still let the media vote for the most valuable player, defensive player of the year, first All-NBA team, second All-NBA team, et cetera, right? So we have the Players Awards this year, which is supposed to flip that power, right? The players vote. And so we have a handful of interesting awards: most valuable player, best defender, man of the year, hardest to guard. Note that most valuable player and hardest to guard are two separate categories. I think we're going to talk about exactly what that means for the MVP race moving forward. Clutch performer, coast. Gosh, if I could only use my words today, right? Coach you most want to play for. Game changer honor. The Oscar Robertson Visionary Award. Best home court advantage. Player you secretly wish was on your team. So we'll go through these. It's not all of them. We'll go through some of them. MVP. Again, as voted on by the players. MVP, James Harden. Houston Rockets. Kind of crazy, right? We hear Steph Curry. Steph Curry won the actual MVP, right? Not the actual MVP. I don't want to discredit the player awards in the first year that they've come out. But he won MVP on voted on by the media. And I think a lot of that has to do with the debate that media gets to have, right? It's what does MVP mean? What does most valuable player mean? Is it the best player on the best team, et cetera, et cetera? Players voted James Harden. The words that I heard, the rumors that I saw on Twitter, he's the hardest to guard, right? Or most difficult to guard to some degree. He's not the hardest to guard because that's a different award. But and I think also he's carrying that team with the least amount of talent around him, right? And that's always been the biggest debate. That's why a lot of people voted for James Harden in the media race, right? Not the player awards. He's most valuable to the Houston Rockets. Without the Houston Rockets, where would they be? I don't know, right? Probably not very good. Probably not very good at all, even with Ty Lawson now. Probably wouldn't make the playoffs. So most valuable player goes to James Harden. I want to jump to hardest to guard because I screwed that up a second ago. The hardest to guard, Steph Curry, right? So the person that's the hardest to stop, right? The hardest to impose your will on them when you're the defender is Steph Curry. But the most valuable player, James Harden. Again, makes you think a little bit. How does the media think about the MVP race versus the players? The one that I thought was maybe the most interesting, and he's been in the news a lot lately. Best defender, DeAndre Jordan, right? Way to be controversial and then win an award. And a lot of people backed DeAndre. Hot Robbie doesn't think he's an elite center, right? But the other players see him as the best defender. And I don't know if that's just because you're driving in and you just see a 10-foot wall in front of you, or he's getting so many blocked shots, or he's pulling in rebounds, or he's just a big dude, right? Maybe there's a little bit of mental defense as opposed to a Kawhi Leonard or a Jimmy Butler who's there on the wing. Maybe it has something to do with the fact that DeAndre is, in a sense, guarding more positions. And what I mean by that is he's interacting with more positions, right? He's down there as the center. So when centers try to post up, he has to defend those guys, right? If someone drives into the lane, he's defending those guys. He might have to leak out and guard one of those, those quick mid-range shots too. So maybe he's just interacting with the most players, but he's scaring them, right? Best defender, DeAndre Jordan. Interesting. Man of the year, we'll just give him some recognition, Ray Allen. We'll jump to clutch performer. Steph Curry won 2 awards here, people. He won hardest to guard, and he won clutch performer. I don't know if that's just solely off of that Pelican shot, maybe, right? You see enough highlights of that, and that gets ingrained in your brain. In my opinion, I don't remember seeing too many memorable clutch shots with him, right? He's clutch down the stretch, but I don't remember seeing any huge buzzer beaters besides that Pelican shot. And if you're on Twitter at Jeffrey Buettner, shoot me a couple highlights. Prove me wrong, all right? Coach you most want to play for. I think this is interesting. Greg Popovich, right? So the players want to win. That's why we see people going to Cleveland to play with LeBron James. That's why we see people staying in small town markets or going to small town markets because they have a better opportunity to win. That's why the Lakers and the Knicks are bad again this year when everyone thought for sure they were going to reload in free agency. People value winning. They want a coach that's going to tell them the right thing to do at the end of the day. So the coach you most want to play for, Greg Popovich. Best home court advantage, Oracle Arena, Golden State Warriors. Now, the Golden State Warriors had an asinine home court record this past year, right? And so, what came first, the chicken or the egg? Is it the fact that Oracle Arena is so insane that they won so many games? Or is it the fact that they keep winning that Oracle Arena is so insane? Again, we're getting weird here, guys. A little philosophical. So, good for the Golden State Warriors, right? They won. They won the championship this year. So if you're a fan of your local team and they're not good, think about the chicken and the egg. Maybe if you went out and you cheered a little bit harder, your team would score a few more points, win a few more games. Be the change you want to see in the world. Be the change you want to see in the world is what I just quoted. Backseat basketball, guys. We're getting Gandhi-esque, philosophical, right? Interesting stuff. Players Award. Oh, how could I forget? So the player you secretly wish was on your team, that award, LeBron James. I don't know, is that a secret? Is that just because people badmouth him all the time? Is it like players badmouthing LeBron James, but they're secretly I'd want him on my team. He's the best player in the world right now. Kobe's injured, all right? My Kobe fans, my Kobe fandom out there, Kobe's injured. He's old. I could have given you that case a few years ago, but he's the best player in the world right now. Obviously, you want him on your team, right? Maybe not. LeBron James, the funniest tweet that I saw in regards to the player you secretly wish is on your team was best food that you secretly wish you could eat. And it was just pizza, ice cream, right? This is the most obvious thing ever award. But good for them. it's going to be interesting over the years if these continue. How do these change, right? And how much do they get affected by who's in the Western Conference Finals, who's in the Eastern Conference Finals, right? So we got James Harden, Western Conference Finals. DeAndre Jordan, they were one game away from the Western Conference Finals. Steph Curry, who, again, won the championship. LeBron James, Finals, et cetera, et cetera, et cetera. So Chris Paul even won an award, the Oscar Robertson Visionary Award. So the league likes winning. These players are competitive, right? All right. Let's get into some of the more minor deals. We had a lot of just really interesting minor pieces moving around. What I like to call the feathers that broke a camelback. I'm forgetting the saying now. But it's the little moves, right? That kind of push a team over the edge. Any team would be good if they had Steph Curry and Klay Thompson and Draymond Green, right? But what about Harrison Barnes? What about, the defensive center? What about et cetera, et cetera, et cetera? The little pieces make a big difference. So, Spurs sign Jimmer Fredette to a deal. Right now, he's just agreed to come to summer camp, but they're actually looking to potentially give him a spot and potentially even a starting spot on the Spurs. Maybe not a starting spot, but that's what the rumor was, right? They want him to at least be able to try out. The Spurs were looking for shooting. They're always looking for shooting, right? D and 3 and D. Pass the ball, extra movement, and then make the three-pointer and you're good to go. Jimmer Fredette lights out when he wants to be, when he's given the opportunity. He hasn't been so good playing big boy basketball, but the Spurs have been known to revitalize guys like this. I think this is a good pickup. Good pickup. Spurs also, and this is very under the radar, not really under the radar, but it wasn't made as much of a big deal, was Manu signed a 2-year deal with the Spurs, Manu Ginobili, with a player option after the first year. To me, and maybe not, obviously they want to give Manu options and he wants options, but if they don't win this year, or if they get knocked out in the first round or the second round like they did this year, I wouldn't be surprised if we saw a few guys retire from that team. You know what I'm talking about? Timmy D. Love you, man. Manu, right? They're getting old. Father time. So, next on the docket, we've got Seth Curry. Seth Curry signed a 2-year deal with the Sacramento Kings. Now, this was kind of an interesting pickup. And reports originally came out that Seth Curry and the Pelicans were coming to a deal, right? They were deep in contract talks. And then the Kings stepped in. The Kings are actually trying to be a legitimate franchise. Surprising, I know. They're actually trying to be a legitimate franchise. And they've been picking up people, small pieces, left and right? They're going to keep DeMarcus, right? They drafted Willie Cauley-Stein. They signed Rajon Rondo. They're trying to form somewhat of a team. And Seth Curry made the first team summer league, right? With TJ Warren and Kyle Anderson, a few of those guys. And Seth Curry's been looked at as a fringe NBA player for quite some time, right? He's Seth Curry is brother to Steph Curry. So deep contract talks with the Pelicans. And the Kings step in. And they give him a 2-year deal. And they promise him more playing time. Now, what I find most interesting, and maybe Seth Curry just got like the big brother hookup in regards to agents. Who knows? A little bit of entourage action where you hook your brother up with the big hotshot agent, even though he's a fringe NBA player. He's technically a D-leaguer for all intents and purposes. No offense, Seth. I think you could be good. I wanted you to be on the Suns, but I don't know. You disappointed them for some reason. But the smart move here, he's got a 2-year deal with the Kings. He has a player option after year 1. So if he does well, right, he can opt out of the crazy. That's what you want. Play with the crazy if you have to. Guaranteed some playing time, right? Work alongside Rajon Rondo and Rudy Gay and DeMarcus Cousins and Willie Cauley-Stein and Ben McLemore. Shoot your lights out. I would shoot the ball. If I'm Seth Curry, I'm shooting the ball every chance I get. Every time I'm slightly open, I'm shooting the ball. Because worst case is they're going to pay you that second year. You're still going to get playing time. It's the Kings, right? They can't be great. You're going to get that playing time second year if you have to. But if you do well, opt out. Sign with a real organization. Sorry, Kings fan. I feel so bad. I'm just ragging on the Kings fan. I think that the Kings have an opportunity to be good. History has shown that they won't, though, unfortunately. History has shown that they won't. And prove me wrong, right? Again, the Kings did go 9-5 before DeMarcus Cousins got sick. It's going to be interesting to see what happens with them. But smart move, Seth Curry, 2-year deal with the Sacramento Kings, player option after that first year. He has a little bit of flexibility, right? We'll see where he ends up going. Another pickup, Kendrick Perkins. Good old Perky Perk. Was with the Cavs. Got very, very little playing time with the Cavaliers. Right? We saw them in the playoffs and rounds after round. Big guys getting injured. Kevin Love went out. For some reason, I thought Perk was going to get those minutes where, he was going to have to go rough someone up. Right? He's that guy where if the other team fouls you hard, you send in Kendrick Perkins and he throws a little bit of an elbow, right? Trash talks a little bit. But Kendrick Perkins didn't get a ton of time. And he's kind of floating around, and he's now landed on the Pelicans. So he's going to back up Anthony Davis, Omar Asik. I don't think he's going to get much playing time there either. Unless there's an injury. He's not a veteran presence that you want, Maybe Alvin Gentry and him have some kind of connection, some kind of history, I'm not sure. But good for him. Not so good for the Pelicans. The Pelicans, obviously they inked Anthony Davis to 5 years. And if you ink the best guy, someone who's going to be one of the best players in the world, if not the best player in the world in the next year, 2 years, 3 years, that's a major move for you. Don't get me wrong. If you take any team and you say, hey, scrap their whole team, you inked Anthony Davis for 5 years, good pickup, right? You get an A+ for the summer. That being said, their ancillary moves, I just thought they had some potential to jump in some trade talks or something. You just don't hear their name floated around a ton with anything decent, right? Is Kendrick Perkins really how you're going to round out your summer? Alvin Gentry, again, another good pickup. I think he's going to be good for that team and good for Anthony Davis. But it just felt like they were going to be able to package something or move. I mean, when you have teams like the Clippers and the Rockets who are cap-strapped, right? Pelicans have always long been kind of cap-strapped, but they're making moves, especially with the cap jumping this year and it jumping again next year. It just felt like they were going to be able to do something a little bit better. Put one more superstar-esque or superstar potential guy around Anthony Davis. And just haven't seen it. I thought Omar Asik was a decent pickup for them last year. Move AD to the 4 spot. Let him use that range. I love Anthony Davis. I long ago jumped on the Pellies bandwagon. When I've jumped on a bandwagon, I'm really the harshest with those people, right? Except for the Suns. Suns can do no harm in my eyes. But Anthony Davis, put some talent around him. Kendrick Perkins to the Pelicans. Another interesting story. So we talked about DeAndre Jordan, the Mavericks. We talked about the baby mama drama, not baby mama drama, just the drama that went on with the Mavericks and Mark Cuban and the emoji war and DeAndre Jordan deciding to sign with the Mavs and then going back on his word and deciding to sign with the Clips. And one of the big things with that story, kind of the underlying thing was, what's going to happen with Wes Matthews? Wes Matthews signed because he wanted to play next to Chandler Parsons, and now they got Darren Williams. I almost messed it up again, Rob. Rob, I know you're listening. I almost said Duran. Playing against Darren Williams. He didn't know Darren Williams was going to play at that point, but he wanted to play against next to Chandler Parsons and DeAndre Jordan and Dirk Nowitzki. And DeAndre bounced. He said, no more. And a lot of people thought that Wes Matthews might back out, right? A lot of people thought Mark Cuban would push him out. And we go back to that other episode. We go back to some of the transcripts or the way Mark Cuban broke down the conversations. He said, hey, if you want to leave, you can, right? It ended up Wes Matthews ended up getting more money, a max contract, so good for him. I guess that works out, right? I guess, you get a raise to stay. But there's a lot of talks that maybe he might leave, right? And the Mavericks were going to tank. Well, kind of an interesting subplot with Richard Jefferson. Similar situation. Supposed to sign with the Mavericks, is now signing with the Cavaliers. He decided to back out. And Mark Cuban, we love Mark Cuban on this podcast. We've got like multiple Mark Cuban updates. We'll call this like the Mark Cuban Minute maybe, and just do like 60 seconds on Mark Cuban every episode. Like worst case scenario, like just do like recaps of Shark Week. Hit me up on Twitter if you think that'd be good, Or Shark Tank, not Shark Week. Shark Week happens once a year. Just like do recaps of Shark Tank episodes for our Mark Cuban Minute. I'm going to have to text Rob on a super secret ninja mission and see if he's okay with that. It might just executive decision it. So our Mark Cuban Minute, he wasn't surprised that RJ was leaving. I'm calling him RJ now. We're close. Richard Jefferson. Richard Jefferson called him and said, hey, DeAndre's not coming. I want to be on a contender. Going to the Cavaliers. Mark Cuban was cool with it. No problem. Mark Cuban is turning out to be like the coolest billionaire. One of the coolest billionaires. Like he's just like a smart, logical, good guy, right? That's why he gets the Mark Cuban Minute on our podcast. And so let him out. Hey, no big deal, man. Feel free to leave. Good move by Mark Cuban. Moving on. So the Lakers aren't good, right? They're not going to be good. There's a lot of people kind of hoped they were going to be good. A lot of people who sat and waited to see what was going to happen this free agency. Who were they going to pick up, right? At one point in time, they thought it was going to be like Rajon Rondo and Kobe Bryant, Kevin Love, and DeMarcus Cousins, right? All of them, their starting five. And that didn't happen. So there's a lot of Lakers fans who are, what I like to say, subletting their fandom. They're letting another team rent it. A lot of those people maybe are Cavs fans temporarily. I don't think any of them are Clips fans. You're either a Clips fan or a Lakers fan, from what I understand. But not a lot of people are, now that the free agency signings have come out, and they got Roy Hibbert. They got Brandon Bass and Lou Williams, right? So aside from the prospect of Julius Randle and their most recent draft pick and Brandon Bass and Roy Hibbert and Lou Williams, there's not much to be like talking about with the Lakers. Well, apparently Kobe feels the same way. So you have to watch this clip. Go onto YouTube, type in the Lakers press conference, and it's the team. So teams do this when they sign people, even if it's a guaranteed signing. Brandon Knight with the Suns. It's long been known that he's going to sign $7 million 5-year deal with the Suns. Regardless, they ink the deal. They go, they do a press conference. The beat writers, the blogs, the local newspapers, they all show up, ask a bunch of weird questions. The coach is there, the GM's there. The players are obviously there. The president of basketball operations, they're all sitting there, right? Silly questions. It's the off season, but it's fun. We like it. So during this press conference, And they introduced Brandon Bass and Roy Hibbert and Lou Williams. And like they finish up a question with Lou Williams talking about, how he thought he improved last year, et cetera, et cetera. And the next question is just, has Kobe Bryant reached out to any of you guys? And if so, what did he say? Silence. Feel how awkward that was? And that was like 10 seconds of silence. I swear in this clip, 15 seconds of silence. There's like Roy Hibbert like making an awkward face and like slightly moving his head back and forth, shaking no, but just complete silence. And like you can just tell from the awkwardness that the press guys were all looking at each other. And eventually someone had like the wherewithal, the presence of mind to ask another question. But I mean, awkward silence in professional sports, really, I think it's great. I love it. I'm an awkward silence kind of guy. I got an awkward humor, but check out that clip. The Lakers press conference. Brandon Bass, Roy Hibbert, Lou Williams. They've got an interesting team. It's just unfortunate, again, for the Lakers. They thought they were going to get a bunch of big names. Kevin Love, DeMarcus Cousins, Rajon Rondo, playing next to Kobe Bryant for his last year. They were gonna contend. They were gonna make the playoffs, and that's just not the case, right? I mean, who do they have going out there? They got Kobe. They've got Roy Hibbert. He's playing next to Julius Randle. I guess Lou Williams coming off the bench. It's interesting, right? They're kind of stuck in this in between where they're paying a lot of money for mediocre role players who at one point in time were kind of starters or could kind of be starters. People thought they could be starters. They're going to put an interesting starting five out there. They don't have a good bench, but I wouldn't be surprised if they still end up in that 10, 11 spot on the Western side, right? The Western Conference, which makes that Phoenix Suns train interesting. So during the last trade deadline, the Phoenix Suns traded their Lakers pick, which was supposed to be this year's pick, but it was top 5 protected. Obviously, the Lakers got that. They got to keep that pick. They picked within the first 5. After this pick, next summer, that pick's only top 3 protected. So it was a interesting gamble by the Suns. They basically traded that pick to Philadelphia. Philadelphia traded Michael Carter-Williams to the Bucks. And the Bucks traded Brandon Knight to the Suns, right? I think the Suns were banking on the fact the Lakers were going to figure out a way to reload, retool. They were going to get that Kevin Love, right? They didn't. So was it a bad trade? We don't know. Trades don't pan out for 2, 3, 4 years. We don't know what the outcomes really were. Maybe that's going to be an episode, right? Going back and analyzing trades from 2010, 2011. See where they ended up, right? The Kawhi Leonard from the Pacers, for the Pacers pick or whatever that was. Things like that. That could be interesting. But a gamble, nonetheless, by the Suns. And it's looking like potentially it's not going to work out. Who knows? So check out that press conference. Complete silence, complete awkwardness. Feels a little bit like this podcast episode, right? I appreciate you guys sticking with me this far. If you've listened up to this point, I really feel like I'm channeling like my inner like late night radio smooth jazz. Got a little philosophical. Talked about Gandhi. We still have some more topics on the docket. I prepped, we went through this, but I appreciate you sticking with me. Summer League news. Speaking of the Suns, speaking of the Spurs, Summer League happens every year. Teams play their rookies, their young guys. They play a certain number of games up front, and then they do an elimination tournament. This year came down to the Spurs and the Suns. Spurs eked out a victory. Both the Spurs and the Suns had a player in that first I guess, all summer league team. I'm not exactly sure what you would phrase that. But they both had a player. Spurs had Kyle Anderson. Suns had TJ Warren. TJ Warren ended up having a couple bad games down in the stretch, but a lot of rookies stepped up for both teams, a lot of young guys. And also the nice thing about Summer League is it kind of gives the teams a chance to try out some of their D-leaguers, right? Who do we want to invite to summer camp? Who's going to come work out with us, et cetera, et cetera. Anyways, championship game, Spurs versus the Suns. Spurs ended up taking the victory. One of the interesting aspects of this whole thing, and good for her, Becky Hammon, as we've known, was the first female assistant coach. She's the first female summer league head coach. And after winning the championship, is looked at as potentially going to be the first female head coach. Spurs players spoke out. They loved playing for her. They respected her. There's no issues, not that there would be. But something we haven't seen before. Diana Rossi was supposed to be an assistant coach for the Suns this year in Summer League, and she ended up having prior commitments. So interesting to see. We're seeing some unique coaching prospects, right? It's not just the veterans anymore. We talked about it before. Coaches are now former players, former front office guys, former players and front office guys. And good for Becky Hammon. She did a great job. Led the Spurs to that championship game. It's going to be interesting to see. How many times have I said interesting? Someone give me an interesting count. Probably like 57 interestings this episode. Everyone's going to keep track from this point on. But good for her. Hopefully she lands on an NBA team one day. Seems like she deserves it. She's earned Popovich's trust. And he's the coach that most of the players want to go play for. Moving on to some fun topics. I love the fun topics. The crazy non-basketball, basketball-related items. Warner Brothers announced a partnership with LeBron James's production company, Spring Hill Productions, to develop TV, movie, and digital content projects. Boo frickety who, right? No one cares. No, you better care. Warner Brothers owns the rights to Space Jam. And LeBron James has long been talked as a potential star of a Space Jam 2 or Space Jam sequel. I think the interesting thing here, keep coming back to, he's wearing number 23, Michael Jordan had a brand and a logo. It's just, for someone who's competing for the greatest of all time, they seem to be following similar paths. And that's not to knock LeBron James, Maybe he doesn't really want to do Space Jam. Maybe he's going to do something else. Maybe he's going to help produce Space Jam. Maybe Space Jam's not even going to be a real thing. If he is in the new Space Jam, I Believe I Can Fly better be playing while a young actor pretends to be practicing basketball too late at night, like in the first one. That was the best scene, right? Out in the backyard, shooting hoops, practicing. I believe I can fly. Told you we would get weird, people. They just seem to follow. He seems to be following straight in the footsteps. And why not, right? I mean, I guess that's the point. If someone's done it already. Someone's, like Michael Jordan is a $1 billion athlete. Billion with a B. And LeBron James has long said to want to follow in those footsteps, right? I guess I'd follow anyone's footsteps for $1 billion. And with the new contract deals, TV deals, partnerships, with Rich Paul and managing and et cetera, et cetera, et cetera, he's on his way, right? Is he going to be the first $1.5 billion player? Is he going to be part owner of the Cleveland Cavaliers? Maybe that's part of the deal, right? LeBron James, come play for the Cavaliers. We'll eventually give you half the team. Just don't talk about it. Trade Andrew Wiggins and get Kevin Love and just give you half the team. He's charging that team a pretty penny, but maybe he's charging himself a pretty penny. So Space Jam 2, be on the lookout, maybe. He was just in that other movie with Amy Schumer. So he's getting out there. He's trying to be like the next Blake Griffin. By that I mean like funny, quirky commercials. Blake will always take that title. For the Mark Cuban Minute, I know we already had 1 minute. This is a 2-minute Mark Cuban podcast. Mark Cuban, star of the new Sharknado movie. I don't think he played the shark either. Played the president. Probably going to be a horrible movie. Didn't see Sharknado 1. Didn't see Sharknado 2. Maybe Sharknado 3 is going to be good. Baron Davis, attempting a comeback. Trying to get back into the NBA. I think that's an interesting thing, right? You end up out of the NBA, trying to come back. I think of people like Emeka Okafor, right? Is Ray Allen going to be on that list? People who fizzled out, injury, not injury, and they want to make it back into the NBA. I think that's the toughest thing to do, right? You see a lot of these. So we talk about the D League and the Summer League. Teams invite these players out to see, hey, will you be a good addition here? The league's always getting better. So good for Baron Davis. We'll see what team he ends up on, if he ends up on a team. Follow your dreams, Baron. Follow your dreams. Pacers. Adding the Hoosier jerseys. The throwbacks to the throwbacks. Pretty sweet jerseys to their lineup. I love throwback jerseys. I'm a big throwback jersey guy. In other jersey-related news, if you're a Phoenix Suns fan, someone accidentally released what looks to be a drawing, a demo of their all-black jerseys. Promised we have been, in my great Yoda voice, of an all-black jersey, and a image was released with some jerseys for the upcoming year, I believe. And there is an all-black jersey with what looks to be purple lettering, dark purple lettering, with the number 42 in the same number style as the Suns currently have on their jerseys. So look for some all-black jerseys if you're a Phoenix Suns fan. Finally, we're going to wrap up this pod. It's very short, long, awkward, fun, philosophical, sad, happy pod with a little bit of Shaq foolery. Not Shaq foolery, Shaq logic. Shaqosophical. I just made that up. Shaqosophical. So Shaq laid some philosophy down. Got a little bit of an Instagram war from two all-time greats. Shaquille O'Neal, Scottie Pippen. Shaq proposed that the all-time best Lakers could beat the all-time best Chicago Bulls team. Think about that. The all-time best Lakers team versus the all-time best Chicago Bulls team. And it's been spurred, maybe not great debate. I think most intelligent people, believe it or not, are on the Lakers side. Take a look at this. These are what the potential best 4 or so people would be on each team. With the Lakers, we have Magic, Kobe Bryant, Kareem Abdul-Jabbar, Shaquille O'Neal. Right? For the Bulls, a little-known guy called Michael Jordan, Scottie Pippen, Dennis Rodman. And then what was proposed, and I think this is maybe the best 4th spot, Derrick Rose, I guess, right? In his prime. Derrick Rose. So you have Magic, Kobe, Shaquille O'Neal, Kareem Abdul-Jabbar versus MJ, Scottie Pippen, D. Rose, Dennis Rodman. Can I throw Robert Horry on that Lakers team? Now that I'm thinking about it, I think I would round out Magic, Kobe, Shaquille, Kareem, Robert Horry, right? In those prime years, clutch shooting, doing the wrist motion right now, the clutch shooting. I think the Lakers blow them out. I don't think blow them out. I've noticed when you're talking to yourself for an hour, you tend to use superlatives, you tend to exaggerate, you tend to get a little midnight jazzy, whispering and yelling and whispering and yelling. I think it'd be close. I think you match up Kobe and MJ, right? And MJ beats out Kobe. I guess you have to match up Kareem and Dennis Rodman, right? Kareem and Dennis Rodman. Kareem Abdul-Jabbar takes that there. Scotty, I'm not exactly sure. There's not really a good, I guess he would match up with Robert Horry in my example. And Scotty takes the cake there. But then besides, then the Bulls just have D Rose left. And the Lakers still have Magic, Shaquille O'Neal, right? Shaquille O'Neal, Kobe Bryant, Magic, all 3 top 10 players ever. The Bulls have MJ. Scotty's obviously a great pickup. Not a great pickup. He's a great sidekick to him. D Rose, even healthy D Rose at this point, now that we know his history, is scary, right? Lakers take it. That's my guess. Hit me up. What's your opinion? At Jeffrey Buettner. It's over, folks. It's been an interesting ride. It's been very introspective, very smooth jazz-esque, philosophical. Again, I appreciate the feedback. Hit me up on Twitter, at Jeffrey Buettner. Tell Hot Robbie that even though he's got super secret ninja missions to go on, we miss him here on the Backseat Basketball Podcast. It's not as fun. It's not as giggly, right? Too much of a deep thinker. I'm going to get comments about that. Too much of a deep thinker. It's been real, though. So this is going to wrap up July 23rd, 2015. The Backseat Basketball episode. As always, and appreciated, just like we end the episode, we wrap up the episode. Feel free to find us on iTunes, subscribe, leave a comment, leave a review, tweet it to your friends. You can also follow us on Twitter. I'm at Jeffrey Buettner. My partner in crime, Rob Stanford. Hot Robbie. Dr. Hot Robbie. Hit him up as well. We ask for questions every week. We'd appreciate feedback and appreciate questions. We had no Twitter questions so far this week, which is all right. And additionally, you can find us on YouTube. Subscribe to our YouTube channel. You can sneak in at work, listen in while you're making those phone calls, right? YouTube, Backseat Basketball. Thanks, guys. Stay safe.